Hi, my name is Mark, and if you've been watching my channel for a while, you may have been wanting this video for a while now. I've been doing for a while this series of videos where I talk about chords and what type of chords there are, how you can go from one chord to the other, maybe use some different shapes. Like, I don't know, we've all played chord progressions like... And it's not like there's something wrong with that chord progression, but maybe you can take those chords, A minor, F major, C major, and G major, and maybe alter the position you're playing them so that it gives a little bit of a different sound. Like if you play that chord progression in these sorts of positions. Even though those are the same chords, they definitely don't have the same sound. And sure, I wasn't strumming like I did before, I was arpeggiating the chords, but you get what I mean, right? That was one of the videos, and I did a couple of other ones, like talking about all of the different chords, like augmented chords, major chords, minor chord, diminished chords, and how you can apply them easily, like in that fashion of going just like... which is pretty useful, I guess. But today we're going to the next level and say, okay, let's take, well, it can even be the chord progression we were doing before. A minor, F major, C major, and G major. Let's say that we didn't really want to change any of those chords. We would just want to maybe, I don't know, add some chords in between those chords. Like, I don't know, between the A minor and F major chord, maybe we can add a chord between those chords. And there are tons of options of chords you can do, and there are tons of theoretical explanations you can use, and I've talked about a bunch of them before. I'll leave maybe some of those videos in the card section or something. But the way that I'm going to show you today of how you can find which chord fits in well within the chord progression you're trying to play over, at least I think it's pretty easy to visualize and understand, but it's also a way that you can sort of use for soloing as well, not just for chordal playing and songwriting and composing and stuff like that. You may think that compared to some of my other videos, I'm sort of rushing this intro a little bit, but to be honest, I don't really have much time to record videos this week, so I'm doing what I can. But yeah, without much further ado, let's just get on to the video. But before I do, I just want to ask, if you can, please subscribe to my channel. As you're probably aware, YouTube acts a little bit weird. Even if you subscribe to a channel, those channel's videos may really not show up in your subscription box or in your recommended section. And even if you subscribe and turn on the little notification bell thingy below, you still really will not be notified of that channel's content. So if you want to stay tuned to my videos, not only do I suggest subscribing and turning on all the notifications, but also follow me on social media. Not only do I post some exclusive stuff there, like improvise solos and backing tracks, and generally wherever I'm up to at the moment, but I always post about my videos. Links for usual suspects will be below, but in general at Mark Guitar. And since you're down there, please consider leaving a like and share this video on social media. I'd highly appreciate it. But getting back to the video itself, like I mentioned before, what we want to do is, perhaps since we're playing A minor, F major, C major, and G major, let's say that we want to have, like, I don't know, a transitionary chord between A minor and F major. Well, again, you can think about it in a theoretical way, like I mentioned before, but for those of you who don't really know much theory or anything, let's just go do this. We're playing A minor, right? So let's play an A minor chord, but I don't want you to play an A minor chord in this position. Let's play an A minor chord like down here maybe, like almost in like an arpeggio shape. We're playing the notes A, C, and E, which are the notes of the A minor chord. A, E, A, C, E. And our next chord is going to be an F major chord, right? So let's play our F major chord down here as well. And if we can, let's try to find a position for the F major chord that's really not that far away from this A minor. Like for instance, the F major chord has the notes F, C, and A. So wait, F, C, and A, it's pretty similar to our A minor chord. The A minor chord has the notes A, C, and E. And the F major chord just has the notes A, C, and F. So it's just one note different, right? There we have our chord progression, A minor, F major. But now the real question is, how do we get from that A minor to an F major? In this case, because they're pretty much the same chord, just one note changes, we would technically not really need like a fancy chord to get between one chord to the other, because, well, the chords are pretty similar. It's not like our ears need to adjust from one chord to the other that much. But here's something that you can do. You can just grab your A minor arpeggio chord position, and you can either raise or sharpen a note, but let's say that, for instance, I don't know, we're doing our A minor thing. Let's say that we raise, like, I don't know, the A, and instead of doing, we do maybe, well, now this sounds a little bit weird, right? But if we play this little arpeggio between the A minor and the F major, it actually adds an interesting transition, right? And if we try to analyze what we're playing, we're looking at the notes B flat, C, and then E. And even though we haven't exactly completed that chord yet, by having the notes B flat, C, and E, it's sort of like a C7 chord. So if we added that C between the A and F, that C7 fits in well there. You can definitely hear that resolution going from C7 or C major to F major. It resolves nicely. It's a perfect cadence, a 5-to-1 resolution. And again, you probably know about this dominant or subdominant resolution, however you want to call it, from going from 1/7 chord to its 4th. You wouldn't need to do this little trick to find out this chord progression. And yeah, that's right, but we can try some other notes. For instance, if we go back to our A minor thing, let's say that instead of raising the A to a B flat, let's say that we raise our C to a C sharp. And again, if you try to analyze whatever we're playing there, we had A, C, and E, an A minor chord, and now by having A, C sharp, and E, we sort of have an A major chord. And you may think it's a little bit weird if we're playing over a chord progression that's in A minor, like A minor, F, C, and G, to add an A major. But if I play you the chords, you'll realize that it actually won't sound as bad as you think it would. Sure, it's a little bit out there and it may or may not be the sound you're looking for, but by having that third rising, it sort of adds some interesting contrary motion, because when you go from that A major to an F major chord, because the A note is common between both chords, it will just stay there. But the E in the A chord will rise to an F, and now the C sharp, the third of A, will drop to a C, the fifth of F. So you sort of have this sort of motion. And contrary motion, if done well, can be really satisfying. And again, like I mentioned before, if we analyze what we're doing, we realize that the contrary motion between A minor, A major, and F major is what makes that extra chord sound a little bit spicy, but good in there, I guess. And again, you could probably figure that out if you knew about contrary motion. But this sort of trick is not only for the ones of you who don't really know about this, but also for the ones of us who know all of this theory and tricks and stuff like that, but we're like, oh, I'm not really sure what I should play, I'm not really sure what chord I should add, I'm not really sure what I should do for soloing. Well, you can maybe try some of these tricks as well. And like I mentioned before, we've sharpened our A to a B flat, and we've sharpened our C to a C sharp, but we can also flatten notes. Like for instance, I don't know, if we flatten our A for an A flat, or in this case like a G sharp. In this case, it's a little bit weird because we can either go for like an A minor major 7 and do that contrary motion again, or we can maybe think about it as like an augmented chord, like going for a C augmented or G sharp augmented, which works fine. It's a little bit of an outside sound, I guess. Or maybe if we go back to our A minor, we can perhaps flatten our C for a B. And in this case, by having the notes A, B, and E, we can think about it in a bunch of different ways. We can think about it as like an A sus2, so going. Or we can perhaps think about this sort of a thing as an E sus4. And we can also use that chord. In fact, we can actually use both, like doing. And it will work, or you can even do like an E sus4, E major, and F major. It will also work. And if you want to be extra spicy, you can also flatten that E. And you get sort of that diminished vibe, like. You can also think of it as like an F7, I guess. But But since we're going for an F, I don't know if it's the best chord, but you can also do it. It just doesn't feel like it resolves as much, at least in these chord shapes. But again, the sky is the limit in this sort of a thing. And again, I've been doing it between the A minor and the F major chord, but you can do it between every other chord. Like, I don't know, after it, we're going from an F chord to a C major chord, right? Well, again, if we play our F major position, if we try to get like a C position, the C chord has the notes C, E, and G. So if we play those notes in the position that's close to this one, we can maybe play G, C, and E. And again, we can do the flattening or sharpening part of the process. Like, again, we're doing the F major. Maybe we can flatten one of the notes. For instance, let's flatten that A into an A flat. And in this case, we're playing an F major chord, an F minor chord, and a C major chord. In this case, I play the C sus4, but you get what I mean. And again, if you're into theory, you probably know that this sort of a thing is like a minor play cadence. But again, I've said this before, if you know that sort of theory, it's good and you should definitely learn it, or at least in my opinion, you should definitely learn it. But if you don't want to and you just want to figure stuff out by yourself, this is something that you can do. So let's say that like between the A minor and F major, we wanted to have that like E sus4 to E major, then we go to F major. And now when we go from F major to C major, we can maybe do this minor play cadence of going F major to F minor and C. And again, there are tons of other choices you can do. You don't really need to do the F major to F minor or the E sus4 to E major and that sort of thing. But I'm going to play that now just so that you can see that if we play like our regular chord progression, it's not like it sounds bad or anything, but it's a little bit generic. But if you add some of those chords as well, it can lead to some different ideas, and you can totally revamp like a ballad chord progression that maybe your singer found, and make a song that, at least sound-wise, it's more comfortable to you. And again, until now, like with the first example, when we're going from A minor to F major, we started by looking at the first chord, like the A minor chord, and altering that first chord to get to the next chord. But we can also do the opposite. So if we're going from A minor to F major, instead of taking the A minor, we can try to find like an altered version of that F chord, the second chord, and play that as a transition chord between the A minor and F major chord. Again, if you look at our F major chord, let's say that we sharpen our C, for instance, and we do like a C sharp. By having this sort of a thing, A, C sharp, and F, we sort of have this like augmented vibe again. But in this case, instead of having like a C augmented vibe, we actually have like an A augmented vibe. And we can add that as a transition chord. And again, did that example sound as good as the other ones? Well, in this case, maybe not. But if you think about it in the theoretical way, it sounds a little bit jarring because these augmented chords are super bright, but if that's the sound you're looking for, then maybe now you know what to do. So you have tons of possibilities here. But the one I think that's more interesting, and we'll skip the C going to the G major chord, because you'll get pretty much the same sort of examples as when going from F to C, because we're going from C to G, we just need to transpose them a little bit. But if we go from the last chord, which is G, G is our last chord, and then we go back to A. Because in the key of A minor or C major, the first chord in our chord progression is an A, and in that key the note that's before the A is that G. It's the previous scale tone in that E, and in the case of this song, it's also the last chord before we go back to the A. When you have this sort of a thing, it actually opens some more chromatic ideas, which I'm a fan of. Like again, here's our A minor. If you find a G major, the G has the notes G, B, and D. So if you go like here, G, B, and D, we can do all of our tricks again. We can sharpen a note, so for instance, let's sharpen that G to a G sharp. And now by having this, we can either think about it as like, I don't know, a G sharp diminished, or you can maybe think about it as like an E7 sort of a thing. And again, that would all make sense theoretically, like... And you can also flatten notes, like if we flatten that G, we now have a B minor, and it can also work like... And And we can even do both, like, I don't know, we could even, if we wanted to, flatten notes and sharpen notes at the same time. So, like, I don't know, we can maybe sharpen the G and do a G flat, and then that B we can maybe, I don't know, we can maybe sharpen it as well. And we got this sort of like G sharp, sharp 11 sort of a thing. And maybe sharpen one note and flatten the other. Like, I don't know, we can flatten the G to our G flat, and maybe do, like, I don't know, we can maybe sharp the B to a C. And we got this sort of D7 sort of a thing. So we can maybe do... Again, it's not the fanciest resolution, but depending on how you use it, it can work. So again, it's not really like I'm showing you something and saying, oh, you need to do it like this, or forget about theory, just do it like this. It's more like, okay, here's something that you can use, and like I mentioned before, it's not just something that you can use in chords, but it's something that you can use in soloing as well. Because let's say that you are soloing over these chords. No alterations and no chords in between, just this bland chord progression. And remember when before we said we can maybe add, like, I don't know, an E major between the A and the F major? Well, now when you're soloing, you can be playing all of your A minor stuff and sort of outline maybe that E major sound when you go between the A minor and F major chords, like... I'm not really sure what I played now, but I played something in that sort of A minor arpeggio and then going after it with that bluesy slidey stuff. Then I landed on this G sharp, the third of E, and I did something like... Again, this was all E major stuff. Then resolving back to the F major chord. Again, just because you're playing over A minor and F major doesn't mean that in your soloing you can't really add those extra sounds. Again, a little bit poorly played, but basically while trying to play over that chord progression, I tried to add some extra sounds here and there, sort of outlining some chords that weren't really being played in the rhythm section of it. But because this is a very bland example, without very much going on, again, you really need to try these things on your own and see if they work on your own song or in whichever song you're trying to play. Some of these things can work, some things maybe won't work as easily, but if I try to briefly explain what I did, I started with some A minor stuff, and it is some like E arpeggios. So going like A minor, E major, and then F major. And then between the F major and C, I did like a D major. So going like... And then with the C, I did some C major stuff. And then I think maybe some C minor stuff. And then back to the G major. So like... And then I went back to G, and then G I think I played something like... So it's basically like going G, G sharp diminished, then back to our A. Again, maybe that's not the solo you would do, and maybe it's something that it's not the sound you're looking for. But for me, it sounded good, and that's something that I like to do, and maybe it's something that you guys can try to learn and try to apply on your own. And there's tons more I could talk about this, but because I think the video is probably really long already, let's just end it with this. Again, I don't really want to bore to death the ones of you who stayed this far. And yeah, let's just do this. Again, thank you so very much for watching. Again, if you actually try to do any of this sort of stuff or try to practice it on your own, please either film yourself playing it or post it on Instagram or YouTube or something, and then DM it or tag me on it. Not only will I see it, but I'll share it, because I'd really like to see what you guys can come up with. If you like this video, you can check out some of my other ones. Again, I not only do I do lessons, but I also do some other types of videos. Subscribe to the channel if you like what you see and want to see more. Leave a comment if you can, and yeah, don't forget to follow me on social media as well. Subscribe, turn on all the notifications, all that sort of a thing. And yeah, I guess we can just end it with this. Cheers!